Welcome, everyone, to our Thursday night member spotlight. My name is Bob Gamble, and I'm a board member for the Las Vegas Triathlon Club. And with me tonight is Colleen Takahashi. She's also a board member, and Colleen is the club secretary. How you doing tonight, Colleen?
Good. How about you?
Doing very, very good. Folks, you may notice something missing here. Dr. John Mercer is not with us tonight, and there's a reason for that. We have a very special guest tonight. With us tonight, we're highlighting and spotlighting Laura Mercer. Laura Mercer is an absolutely amazing triathlete, and we're going to get to know her a whole lot better, and she's got a very interesting story. And we wanted Laura to be able to talk about whatever she wanted to talk about without being colored by what John was asking her. So like I said, we kicked John to the curb for tonight. It's going to be myself and Colleen Takahashi talking with Laura Mercer. How you doing tonight, Laura?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Bob.
And just as an introduction to Laura, for people who don't know her, Laura is an amazing triathlete. She has competed in 14 Ironmen. She's competed in everything from a sprint through an Ollie, the Olympic distance, to half Ironman, to the full Ironman. And Laura this year qualified for Kona. She's going to Kona this year in the World Championship. And tonight we're going to, talk to her about her career. And it's pretty amazing. She has done races all over the world, from New Zealand to Denmark. And, there's not a whole lot of people that can say that. So Laura, how you doing tonight?
Good. Doing great.
And what we're going to do is we're going to start off asking you some questions.
Okay.
You've got a very interesting story. So tell us one of the things that I find really interesting was your very first triathlon. Tell us about that.
Okay, well, the very first one I did was in 1993. And that's when I was pregnant with our first son, Miles. And I was about 4.5, 5 months pregnant. And I had stayed active throughout my pregnancy, and I had, married John just recently, and he was really big into triathlons, and I actually went and saw him do some, and I'm like, this is kind of crazy, but it kind of rubbed off on me a little bit, and I thought, I'll try one. And, so I kind of trained for one, swam, and we lived in Texas at the time, and so I swam in the lake there and learned how to bike, without just kind of like biking to a store. I had to actually bike for miles, and then I knew how to run a little bit. So it was a sprint triathlon. It was a lot of fun. And John put a heart rate monitor on me, which back then made loud beeping noises if my heart rate went too high. And it was fun. I had a good time, and I really enjoyed it.
Was John concerned about your heart rate getting too high while you were pregnant?
Yes. Yes, and back then, this was 27 years ago. We didn't have as much information about pregnant women that we have now, where pregnancy is not a limiter. You could still work out, you could get your heart rate up, you can do all sorts of things. But back then, we didn't have as much information. So we just wanted to keep my heart rate on the down low. So it was fairly easy sprint, and it wasn't too taxing. So.
And after that, you actually wanted to do another one?
No. No. I was like, it was hard. It wasn't overly, it wasn't easy. It was still really challenging for me because I'd never done 3 sports at once. Mm-hmm. And then, we had kids, and we got busy with kids, and then we didn't come back to triathlon for about 14 years.
Well, that's quite a break. And then your next one was Pumpkin Man in 2007,
I believe it was. Yeah, 2007. So, that was quite an experience. My neighbor who used to live beside us, I told her, hey, I want to get in shape. And she's like, yeah, I do too. And we were thinking of doing a triathlon, and John was eager to do it. And so the three of us decided to sign up for Pumpkin Man. Little did I know just how strenuous the bike ride would be. I was unaware, and when I found out about the hill, I panicked quite a bit, but it was fine. And
John didn't tell you about that hill before you started.
He's not, he's like, oh, he would just do it, but I, on the other hand, was like, oh my gosh, I have to go up that hill at the end of these 12 miles. And anyways, but it worked out fine. My neighbor never did one again after that. She said, I'm done, and I never want to do it again. But I met someone on that race, and his name was Tony Taylor. And I was having a really hard time on the run of my sprint during Pumpkin Man, and he came up beside me and he's like, hey, Speed Walker, how you doing? Because at the time all I could do was walk. And I was like, oh, I don't know, I'm so bad at this and I can't run. And he's like, you're doing great, I walk all the time. And he was so encouraging and amazing. And I remember watching him run off after he encouraged me. And I remember seeing his age was 67 on his calf. And this was back in 2007. I was like, oh, wow.
Whoa.
67, he's doing these. I'm 40. I should be able to do this, and he was a real inspiration to me. He kept me going. He kept me going in the sport. He one connection to me. And I didn't tell him for about 2 years what that little conversation did to me.
That is so important for everybody to hear, that it doesn't take a whole lot, a lot of small actions, and right. That encouragement. Isn't that what's so cool about our club? The fact that everybody encourages everybody, and I'm glad you brought that up, in the fact that doesn't matter. You go by somebody, and if they're struggling, keep it up. You're looking good, and it just goes on to really, keep you moving. So what was it like when you finished that? When you finished the Pumpkin Man, because that was not an easy race. Your first really official race, as a trained triathlete, and you climbed to Boulder City, and then ran after it.
It was rough. At the time I was really out of shape. I was a computer programmer. I built websites and e-commerce systems. So I sat all day, and I was incredibly out of shape cardiovascular wise. So that sprint triathlon was incredibly taxing for me. And, I thought, wow, I don't know. Can I do this? And then I watched people coming across the finish line, and they were just as tired as I was. And, I'm like, well, we're all in the same boat, I guess. Like, it's just, how it is. And then we decided to sign up for Rage in the spring. So, and then that's just went from there.
When did you move on to your, to the next race? And was it an Olympic, your next one?
No, I stayed with sprints for a while because, like I said, I was really quite out of shape. And then starting exercising again when you're 40, it takes a considerable amount of time to get in shape again. So I had to stick with sprints for a couple of years. And I remember saying, oh, I don't know how anyone could do an Olympic. I could never sit on my bike for 25 miles. I just, at the time, it was just so beyond me. And yet then I ended up doing an Olympic, and then I did that, sprints and Olympics, then for a couple more, I think another year and a half. Then I tried to do a half. I did a half. And then it just went from there, but it had to come in bits and pieces as my fitness got better. And that took time. I had to be patient.
So Laura, I heard you went and watched Silverman. How was that?
Yes. Okay, so after Pumpkin Man, remember I just finished a sprint, and I'm like, wow, it was so hard, right? And then this race called Silverman was on, and it was apparently a full distance, and I didn't know what that was. And so I went to the multi-generational center where T2 was, and I decided to watch them. And I was talking to someone, and I realized these bikers just did 112 miles after they swam 2.4 miles, and they're getting off the bike. And I remember watching them and I was like, oh, like, how do they do this? And women of all shapes and sizes were doing it. People of all ages, older men and younger men, and older women, younger women, all different types of body sizes. And then I saw them run off into the run. I'm like, they've got to run a marathon, right? And I was so, I came home and I said, John, you're not going to believe what these people are doing. I was just like, and that was it. It was this spark that went off in my mind when I saw how many different types of people were in triathlon. It wasn't just elite, ripped athletes that I had seen in magazines or seen on TV. It was just normal people like me.
And it was isn't that, I'm glad that you brought that up. I mean, that's wonderful. You realize that it didn't come overnight. I mean, your first one was very hard, a sprint, and it was hard to finish. And then look at you now. I mean, you knock out, Ironman races like other people, comb their hair in the morning. It seems it's like you can just, go and do these. I know you work hard at it. I know you've put a lot of time into it, but it wasn't always like that. It wasn't always, it took a while to build up to it. How long did it take you to build up to the Ironman?
5 years. 5 years. So I do everything in 5-year plans. Okay, so I gave myself 5 years to get in shape. And by that, it meant be able to run like a half marathon kind of without much training. That means I'm in shape. That to me at the time was really a big goal. And so everything I do is in 5-year plans. And then I have short-term goals and that one big long-term goal within that 5-year plan. So I'm on my third 5-year plan right now because I'm going into year 12. So with 2007. So no, this is year 14, I guess, or 13 or 14. I've been doing triathlons, and it just so happened that the Legacy program came along, where if you do enough Ironmans, they just let you in after a while. They're just like, yeah, you just come and race in Kona because you're doing just so many, it's ridiculous. So when that program became available, which I think was announced in 2013 or something like that, I was like, oh, I think I can do that. Yeah. I mean, I can put in some quantity and race a lot and stuff. And that's how I got into Kona this year. I actually didn't qualify for Kona. I got in through the Legacy program. So it's a little bit different. It's more of a minimum of 12 Ironmans you need to apply, and then you eventually get in.
So tell us about your first Ironman. This year will be my first Ironman, so excited to hear.
My first Ironman actually went better than my first sprint, obviously because I knew more, right? I had more experience with racing and stuff. I had no clue about nutrition though, and that was a bit of a disaster for my first Ironman. I don't know how I packed so much food on my bike, but I did. Needless to say, I had major gastrointestinal issues, because I just was eating too much. I didn't have a coach at the time, and I was just winging it and reading a lot of different things. So, but all in all, it went good. I knew what to expect, and I just really enjoyed the process, because your first Ironman is a PR. It's your first Ironman, so it's a PR, right?
Yeah.
And you just have to come in under a certain time. And I had trained hard, and I had some things go wrong in that race, but I learned to just adapt and change and press on. So I thought it went pretty good.
Okay.
One thing I like about what you're saying is that you don't have any failures. You just have learning moments. It's like whenever something.
I do, right. That's true. I have to be okay with failure, because that's how I learn, right? And if I'm going to do this long term, I have to figure out what works and what doesn't work, and that takes time. So,
Laura, what race was that? What race was your first Ironman?
It was Ironman Canada in Penticton, British Columbia.
Penticton. How cool. I mean, isn't that like a hometown for you? Not a hometown, but.
Well, it's where my mother was living. Yes. So, and I had traveled there. Cool. Yeah, it was. It was great to go back to Canada. I was raging a little bit because it was like a heat wave. It was like, I don't know, 100 degrees, and it's never that hot there. But of course, John and I show up and it's a heat wave, and I was so excited.
You brought the heat with you.
Training. I know. I've been training in the desert, and all of a sudden it's, super hot in Canada. What are the chances? But at least I was heat adapted that way, so it was good.
Also, I want to correct one thing. Not really correct it, but I want to call you out on it. You earned that spot in Kona. So it's like, that is a type of a qualification. You did, 12 Ironman races. And that's how many people can say that they've done that? So you earned, and in everybody's mind, you qualified for that. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Bob. Thank
you. So after you did your first Ironman, did you want to do another one? I mean, did it, was like, hey, I like this, or was it like, I'm never going to do that again?
No, I kind of liked it. I liked it. I liked it. I think I, sparked a little, I kind of like to suffer, I just was like, I enjoyed it. I just liked being out there for hours and hours. And I met so many great people while I was racing, and I saw the whole countryside, and I really enjoyed it. The mistake I made after my first Ironman is I went back to training too quickly. So I went right back into training. I took like maybe a couple weeks off, and then I just started hammering. And boy, oh boy, that was a mistake, was not learning how to recover properly. And then I really dug myself into a hole. So I had to take a year off after my first Ironman because I did a little too much training afterwards, and I needed to just reset. But then after that, hit it again. And I really haven't looked back since then.
Tell me about that again. I mean, what was it that made you take that year off? What was the feeling? What was the injury? Whatever it was. Why did you do that? And
I just felt that I was definitely overreaching in training, and I may have been getting close to overtraining, meaning I couldn't run at all. I couldn't do much exercise at all. So I had come back from my full Ironman, took a couple weeks off, and I was running half marathons pretty fast. And I shouldn't have done that. And what I did was dig myself into a hole where then I had trouble training. I was supposed to do the Las Vegas marathon that December, and I could barely run for it because I was so tanked.
That's another very important thing that I'm glad you brought up, and the other people that are listening. It's like, you have got to let your body recover. And whenever you tear it down like that, you're not going to go back right away. It's especially after your first race. And it's like, I know John is listening, and I know he's saying, Bob, are you listening to yourself after you do this? I know that's what he's saying, because it's like, he's got my reputation down. It's like, just don't hurt yourself. So that's a really good message. I'm glad you brought that up. The fact that,
but that's part of the learning, right? That's part of the failing, learning, and then moving on from it.
That's good. Tell me, what was it like racing in other countries? You raced in New Zealand, and you raced in Denmark. What was that like, and why did you want to do that? What made you want to do that?
Well, interestingly enough, we had met an athlete who came here for the World 70.3 World Championship when it was here in Henderson, and he was from New Zealand. And we showed him around a bit, and I took him biking a bit. And he says, hey, if you're ever in New Zealand, we'd love to host you. And I'm like, we should go to New Zealand. And
that works.
And, we knew someone there, and they were going to race it. And we're like, oh, this will be great. So, we made plans to do that. And New Zealand is an amazing country, and I cannot wait to get back there. The Kiwis are wonderful people. I just love them. The landscape is beautiful. Just everything about it. We really enjoyed it. So then, we kind of got this little travel bug in us, and we thought, well, let's try some other spots, and Copenhagen, Denmark, John, he went and raced Norseman, and then I went and did Copenhagen. That's when they lost our bikes and all that. But that was part of the adventure, So it was really neat to meet new people, see new cultures, and bike 112 miles through another countryside. That is nothing like our own. It was great.
That's got to be so cool.
Yeah, it was. It was cool.
Of all of the races, the Ironman races you've done, then, Canada, 10 of them in North America, and then New Zealand and Denmark. What was your favorite race and why?
Oh, that's a tough one. I really liked Ironman Mont Tremblant, which is in Quebec, Canada. It's on the east coast of Canada, and I really liked that race. It was beautiful. The people were wonderful, and I had a good race there, and so I really enjoyed it. I would definitely go back and do that one again.
So now, with all of your races, you've had some tremendous accomplishments. As far as every one of those is a major accomplishment. Which one made you the proudest? And why was it that, what is it that made you so proud of that particular race?
That is a good question. I haven't really given much thought to which one made me really proud. I guess I'd have to say it would be the one I almost didn't finish. And that would be
I think
Ironman.
The key word there was almost, though, right?
I finished. Sometimes when you think you just can't do it, it's too hard, but you just find a little bit inside that makes you push forward. And that was Ironman Whistler in Canada. I don't know what happened with that race, but boy, oh boy, the wheels came off the bus in a big bad way during that bike. And it was rough. I think John and I both had a really tough race there. And it was close to the wire. I think we had about 15 minutes left to our cutoff. And that was the longest I've ever taken in an Ironman. And it was like my 10th Ironman I've ever done. And yet I really struggled on it. To this day, don't know why. But I'm proud of myself for finishing. So.
But you finished that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's important too, is that sometimes things just don't go right. And you're like, what the heck is going on with that?
That's right.
What's in the future for you right now? What are your next races coming up? I know you have Kona coming up.
Yeah, I have St. George 70.3 World Championship race in September in St. George. I've never done the St. George course, so I'm looking forward to that. And then, of course, I have Kona in October. And then I don't really have any plans after that. So I'm going to take a little bit of time off. I have one more bucket list item. I really want to do a 100-mile run. Yeah, but that probably won't be till about 2023. So I don't know. I'll just see what 2022 holds.
So. What I find interesting about that is you shared how hard your first race was. And it is like everybody who does a sprint for the first time, it's like, it's not easy. You get off the bike. What's it like when you get off the bike? Your legs aren't there. They don't work, Yeah. And it's like, and now you're talking about doing a 100-mile race. So, I mean, this is incredibly inspirational in the fact that you work through from start to the fact that you can even consider doing, you've done Ironman, of course, and then you even consider doing a 100-mile race. And when you first started, you went, oh my goodness, how are these people doing this?
It wasn't even like, just the thought of doing a marathon was beyond comprehension for me. I mean, I had been running 2 years, and I remember saying to John, when is it going to stop hurting so much? It just seems so hard for me. And it did. It just, if you just keep at it, it does. It does get easier. And then that just fires you up. When you've reached that point and you're like, okay, let's see what else we can do. So you push the envelope and you just keep pushing that envelope. But you always have to remember where you came from,
When did you realize that you were a triathlete and a very good one? When was that plateau? When did you hit that? Because you didn't think you were a good triathlete at first, did you?
No. I mean, no, I was really, I'm pretty solid middle of the packer. I am. And, you know, some smaller races I may get on the podium and stuff, but I'm pretty solid. And as I get older, I'm just trying to remain solid. I guess I'm very, very experienced is what I am. And I can get through a lot of scenarios where some people could tap into fitness, but I can tap into experience. And I think that makes me a very strong triathlete. And so that happened probably within the last few years.
Oh, really? Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was around when I turned 50. And I was like, okay, I can keep going. I'm going to do this. So.
And that's another good lesson for everybody who's listening, is the fact that it doesn't come overnight. You can't get experience out of a book. You can't get experience in a classroom or anything. You get experience with your butt in the saddle and your feet hurting on the run. So you actually have an amazing story as far as your journey from start to where you are now. So
yeah, it's been quite a journey, but I've met great people along the way, and if it wasn't for them, who knows how long I would have stayed in it. But you know, they keep you motivated. You train with them. You know, people at the club, coaches I've had in the past, and just training partners. They've been instrumental in getting me out of bed early in the morning and meeting them for a run or a ride or a swim. So, you know, I've really enjoyed the people I've met.
Yeah. We said we were going to keep you like 30 minutes, and we're almost there. So for the folks who are in the Tri Club, and we've got a lot of rookies. We've got, a lot of people who are just getting into it and are real excited about it and they're enthusiastic. What would you like them to take away from your experience? And what would you say to the younger members of the club, or even the older members who are just getting started?
I would say be patient and look at this as a lifestyle. You know, it's something you get to do for the rest of your life if you want to, you know.
That's
and
right.
We all need to stay active. We all need to keep moving. And it's really important for our mental health and our physical health. So I'd say be patient, pick goals, and pick timelines, reasonable timelines for those goals, and just check them off. Just go after them.
I like the fact that you have a 5-year plan that is not going to be, you're not getting ready for to cram for the next race that is in 2 months. It's like you're planning things out, and the lifestyle. And this is, John is saying, Bob, are you listening to yourself here? So I'm listening to you, Laura, and I appreciate you having that perspective. The fact that it's a lifestyle, it's not an event. So it's a wonderful message for the group, for the club. And also, I just wanted to thank you for how much you are involved in the club, because all of these races, they would not go off without you being there. Of course, John is there, but you are doing every place that you can fit in, or you're you're working, and you're an exceptionally important member of the club. So I want to thank you for that as well.
Thank you. I think we have a great board and we all work hard, and I'm really proud to be part of that.
Well, we said we were going to keep you for 30 minutes and it's gone just over that. So perfect. With all that, hang on after we wrap it up, but thank you again for doing this. And it was wonderful talking to you.
Same. And thank you.
Thank you for being here, Colleen, as well.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, everyone. It was my pleasure.
Thanks.